I'm Nic Harcourt for AKG Stories Behind the Sessions with Nic Hexum. Nic is a singer, songwriter, and lead vocalist and rhythm guitarist for the multi-platinum alternative rock band 311. Since forming in 1988, the group have released 13 studio albums, 2 live albums, 4 compilations, plus a series of EPs and DVDs. Their self-titled 1995 record, also known as The Blue Album, had hit singles like Don't Stay Home, Down, and All Mixed Up, and it turned the band into bona fide rock stars who continue to make records and tour to sell out crowds. Nic, great to see you again. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much.
To be here.
You know, before we start talking about 311 records, maybe I could talk about a couple of records that you bought yourself when you were younger.
Well, the very first record that I bought was, I remember it was an Elvis compilation. For some reason, I got it home and it was all covers. And I was really disappointed because it wasn't the real thing. So I convinced my parents to take it back so I could get the actual, it's one of these weird 70s things that to go to the music store and be like somehow bait and switched. But yeah, early rock and roll was my thing. And then I think everything changed for me when I started to hear English music, like The Clash was my band. Just something about the energy. And I think a lot of people say you're either like a Pistols guy or a Clash guy. I was a Clash guy because so many music styles. Like
well, they had a little dub in it, a little reggae.
Yeah, and just the fact that they would just, anything that they wanted to use in their music, they would put it in. They would have a gospel song, a jazz song, a blues song, all over Creole, like all over the place stylistically. And I have so much respect for that. We always felt like anything we like, let's put it in our music and not be afraid to violate categories.
You talked about growing up in Omaha, in Nebraska, and I believe your first band was a high school band.
Yeah. So we were called the Eds because our drummer was named Ed, and he was just a character, and he was like our mascot. So the roots of 311 actually go back to that high school band because Tim Mahoney, our guitarist in 311, was in that band. The two of us linked up with Chad Sexton, our drummer. The 311 sound was probably born at that time because that's when the next phase of alternative came in with like Chili Peppers, Jane's Addiction, Fishbone, a lot of stuff that was happening in LA at the time. And then we also loved Prince and Public Enemy, hip hop, Beastie Boys.
By the time you got around to getting a record deal, it's what, 1993?
Yeah, 92.
And you were telling me, so the first album, Music,
came out in early 93.
And you were telling me that you guys were a little green as you went into the recording studio for the first time. I mean, obviously you'd done demos, but this was the real thing, right? You're going into Ocean Studios in Burbank. Yeah. The producer, Eddie Offord, known for working with prog rock bands.
Yes.
Like Emerson, Lake and Palmer and Yes.
Yes.
Usually when I ask these questions, I sort of talk about, well, what was it like going into the studio with this guy or whatever? But what about that first day?
Yeah, I remember just being so excited and intimidated, hearing about the history of the equipment and like learning like what a Neve console was and, seeing these huge tape machines. And Eddie Offord was just such a wealth of information. The fact that he took such an interest in us helped the label's excitement a lot. You learned so much on that first album. So it was, we owe a pretty big debt of gratitude to him for helping us.
And what about as a live band at that time? I know that the record came out, got some attention straight away, and you headed out, you self-financed your tour. There was a moment where you just lost everything on the road.
Yeah, so our very first tour, we had like 1 month of tour support. So our very first tour, we had a couple brand new vans and paid a tour manager way too much to like be our tour manager in front of house. And then like after a month, they were like, okay, well, that's it, you're done. I was like, wait, we're just getting started here. So we figured out, all right, we need to tour on the cheap. We need to use our buddies as our roadies. And so we borrowed our drummer's dad's RV. I mean, this RV was like huge, massive, like Winnebago, 1974. Chad's dad say, hey, if the thing catches fire, just let it go. I was like, okay, that's a little weird.
Yeah, you didn't know at the time exactly what that meant.
And then, so we were driving from one gig to another in Missouri. We didn't have enough, we wanted it to be able to spread out in the RV, so we decided to tow a van full of our equipment. So we had this huge RV, plus towing a Volkswagen van that was completely full of our equipment. So we're really, stressing this engine, and we were having a problem with backfiring. We were like, we probably should get that fixed. We tried to adjust the carburetor, whatever. And we're like, I guess we're just gonna live with the backfiring. The backfiring eventually caught, it's an explosion in the exhaust line, and enough explosions eventually caught the floorboard on fire. And then I'm like losing power. I'm like, what's going on? And by the time I get to the side of the road, I can just see like flames coming, because the fire got to the gas line. Oh. I'm like, major fire, major fire. We pull over, kick open there's just one door, and it's halfway down the length of the RV, and open the door, and there's just like flames coming in, like go, go, go. Everyone's just jumps out. I'm the last guy to get out because I was driving. Right. And I just jumped into like a sea of flame. You actually went everywhere. Through the fire to get out. Yes. Trial by fire. Jesus. Scampered up the embankment on the side of... Just watched it all burn. Yeah. All your stuff. Yeah. Well, we tried to kind of like, maybe we can save the van. I thought we could, get the equipment out of the van, but we're like, it's gonna blow. It was like straight out of a movie. But the fire was so intense that it actually turned the interstate into gravel. It like cooked the interstate. It was just nothing but like burnt sand after this huge, 100 gallons of gas goes up in flames. So where do you go from there? You've got a record that's getting some attention. Yeah. Record label's not funding you anymore. You're out on your own, figuring out how to do it on the cheap. You lose your stuff. Yeah. How do you pick up from that? Well, we borrowed equipment from local musicians, opening bands wherever we went. Found a friend in Omaha whose dad, lent us some money to... I was going to say, not another RV. No, we actually did get another RV, but it was a lot newer. Right. We took out a loan to buy an RV, and this one like had a warranty and was newer, and we loved having the RV. And you didn't miss a beat. You just kept going. We only canceled that night's show. So by the time you're ready for another album, your third, different producer. Yes. Ron St. Germain. Yeah. You told me you wanted to work with him because he'd worked with Bad Brains, Chili Peppers, Living Colour, I think. Yeah, Living Colour, and did some work with Tool and Fishbone, I think, as well. His credits are insane. I mean, because there's Diana Ross is in there, and Kraftwerk are in there, and Duran Duran. I mean, talk about eclectic. Yeah. And diverse. Was that why you wanted to work with him? Well, this was another like elder statesman that we could learn from, like Eddie offered, and we're still close friends with Ron St. Germain. In fact, he might come out and help us with some mixing on the current album we're working on right now. A total gearhead, so taught us all about engineering and mics, and he would absolutely love to see this facility here with all the geeking out on all this equipment. But yeah, we did the Blue album with him. The production on those Bad Brains albums, Eye Against Eye and Quickness, are just phenomenal. Like the most energetic, killer sound. So it was a dream of ours to work with him. Because we'd been touring so much, we were like, we are going to bring the heat on this, and we're going to record all the instruments at once. And a lot of people are like, your live show is the bomb, but the records don't quite capture that. So we're like, we're going to make sure we capture the energy, and we played all the main instruments. So all the basic tracks were like a band in a studio playing as a band. Yeah. And you need an elaborate studio to have enough like ISO booths and everything for all the amps and everything. But we recorded that at NRG Studio, and then we just overdub some vocals and guitar solos, and still more of a raw, energetic album. And with a bunch of B-sides, like there was like 5 different cool B-sides that probably were good enough to go on the main album. There's songs that still to this day, like a song called Gap that we play live, that were like, why didn't we put that on the actual album? But it was part of our the bonus EP that went with our home video. But yeah, it was an exciting time because that's when we could see the culture come around to us on that Blue album.
Did you think as you were making that record and obviously writing the songs that would end up on that record, that this was the one?
I thought the song Down had something special to it because the chorus was so catchy. We always had this push and pull with our record company that they wanted us to do the softer songs as the singles. So I was like, all right, fine. We can start out with, like, I guess All Mixed Up came first, but didn't really do anything. Then Don't Stay Home came out and started to do better. We got like on MTV with the video, but then Down was the third song. And I was like, just please, just give us a third single. That's the one right there. And then that blew up. And then we re-released All Mixed Up. And then those two songs were just like, kept getting played for years after that. So, but then like, how do you follow up an album like that? Our next record, Transistor, was much more experimental. We were just getting into like trip hop, like Massive Attack and Portishead and Tricky and all this sort of like
love
dub,
that stuff. Yeah,
this dub influence stuff.
Well, coming from the same place as The Clash.
Yeah, like the Next Generation and psychedelic kind of trippy sounds. And it wasn't the like straight ahead kind of rock album that we had just come off of. At first, a lot of people were like, what happened to 311? But then after a while, that became known as our kind of like Sgt. Pepper's breakthrough album because it was so experimental. We took a big chance, and we probably lost some sort of fair weather part-time fans that were just only interested in us doing that kind of rap rock thing. But we wanted to not be held in any sort of box of expectations. So we did the Transistor album, which was very all over the place and trippy, and eventually became like the most beloved album to our fans.
Did you make any changes in how you made the album? And obviously you're writing different songs stylistically. What about the production?
The Blue album was intended to be like a great live album. And then on Transistor, we were like, let's not even worry about if we can play this live. Like if it depends on a keyboard, which we don't have a keyboardist, that's okay. We'll figure it out later, which made it hard when we needed to go out and play it live, but we figured it out, and we've actually played that album in its entirety a few special event shows that we've had. We also, I loved the way the Clash did a double album with London Calling and a triple album with Sandinista.
Yeah.
So we're like, let's be punk rock and give our fans more music. So we literally crammed as many songs as would fit on a CD. 74 minutes of music on the Transistor album, which was 21 songs. And then we still had 9 songs left over because we just said yes to every idea. And so it just goes off in every different direction. Some of it may be slightly half-baked, but that's the thing with creativity. Just go, and if it doesn't stick, that's all right.
So you mentioned you're working on this album, which will be the 14th album. What can we expect when it does see the light of day?
Well, I think that we often there's a pendulum where we'll want to, in some ways, get back to basics and be more of a rockin' band, and other times we'll be more experimental. And I think right now we're maybe a little bit more back to basics, where I'm like, let's just make a 311 on steroids record. Everything better, energy, up-tempo. It's gonna just kill live. It's really strong hooks.
You told me there's another project that you've been involved with recently, which is more about giving back.
Yeah.
You've come up with an app. I think it's a fabulous idea. Basically, the idea is to put all the resources in one place that any young band or artist could want or need.
Yeah. So the name of our company is SKP, because I'm helping people like myself become major label escapees and escape the label system. There really isn't, when you have an album, there isn't a centralized hub. You just have to call your manager, and you've got your manager's Rolodex. Where do you go for a publicist, a radio team, a social media person, photographer, tour manager, roadies, all these different things. There is no LinkedIn or a centralized place, even though the word gig comes from music, comes from jazz, and there is no gig economy hub for the music business, you know. So what we're providing is a platform. It's you know, a talent platform, a two-sided marketplace, which is where you've got buyers and sellers, where somebody could go to get their promotion services, all the things that a label would do. You could just, you know, go a la carte. And maybe if you're in some, like, you know, math metal band, you wouldn't need a radio person, but you'd still want like social media, or you can sort of a la carte hire the people that you would need.
What a great idea, first of all, you know, let alone the, you know, I've been successful, let me give something back, but just the concept for a young artist to be able to go somewhere and figure out the things they need and how to get them and who to talk to. And obviously you still got to make a choice. Do you want to pay the guy, whatever it is, but just some sort of central resource for folks. That's a great idea.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We're excited.
Well, it's been great talking to you. The last time I saw you was probably about a decade ago.
Yeah.
You did the TV show that I used to host.
That's right. And I had a job in that same room back
in the Guitar Center in Hollywood.
Yes, selling professional audio, like the stuff that's designed here.
Yeah.
It was so exciting for me to be there selling like pro audio to like all these rock stars came in.
I'd forgotten that part of the interview we did. And
Yeah.
I'm remembering it now.
Room
Yeah, you were
where
like,
the
yeah, I used to
work
sell
here.
this stuff in here. Yeah. Great to see you.
Great to see you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Nic.